Are credit cards evil? That is the topic of today's video. There is a finance guru who says that credit cards are evil and you should not have a single credit card under your name. This same person believes only in cash. And to some degree, I agree with him, but I'm not sure that I wholeheartedly follow his advice. He only wants you to carry a debit card if you want to have plastic in your wallet. I think I understand why he's putting that forward and why his opinion about credit cards is that they are trash. So let's do a little history lesson here. Who invented the first credit card? In 1950, the Diners Club card was launched in the US as the first general purpose charge card. It was mainly used for restaurants and travel. It had to be paid off in full each month. It was fascinating that with a little piece of plastic, you would be able to go out and enjoy dinner, book a hotel, book a flight somewhere, and you would be charged later during the course of the month cycle so that you could pay it off at the end of that cycle. There was no need to carry cash. Life was beautiful. What a great idea. So the credit card was created to facilitate the purchase of things. Why would you think that this is evil? Well, the evil lies in the revolving credit part. Revolving credit is when you are carrying over a balance. And carrying over this balance is not the bank being nice and just letting you borrow money so you can take a few months to pay it. Doing that comes at a cost. And the cost is in the form of an interest rate. In 1958, Bank of America introduced the Bank AmeriCard, which evolved into the first true revolving credit card. That means that you could carry a balance over every month. This later became known as Visa. And then in 1966, a group of banks created Master Charge. It was establishing a competitor to Bank AmeriCard. And this later became known as MasterCard. So the first ever revolving credit card was created by Bank of America. It had an interest rate of 18% APR. 18% APR compared to today's rates. We'll get into that later. But APR stands for annual percentage rate. This is a very fast and easy way to borrow short-term money. And you're being charged an interest for it. And that right there is why Dave Ramsey says that credit cards are evil. He hates borrowing money. He mentions that in his book, which I happen to have right here. It helped me a lot, but you have to take things with a grain of salt. Anyway, when you think about it, the credit card business model was an absolute game changer. It made tons of profit, and it was sustainable and made sense for the company. This is why companies like these are worth billions of dollars today. I don't believe that I've heard of many credit card companies that have gone belly up. So they either merge with a bigger company or sell off their card holders to different entities to get out of the business. But anyway, let's move on from the history into today's numbers. When we start to look at a few credit card stats for 2025, we see that now all existing credit card accounts have an average of 21.16%. Not far off from the 50s where the APR was 18%. If we continue to look a little bit further, we will see that accounts that are accruing interest have a 22%. New credit cards offers are between 22 and 24%, and so on. So everything is in the low 20s. It doesn't appear that the rates have changed significantly, and everything seems like it's been holding steady. The problem is that there are credit cards that have outrageous high percentages. The main offenders are store and retail cards. The typical range of these is anywhere between 28 and 33% APR. Examples would be like a Best Buy, Home Depot. There's also the subprime credit building cards. These are designed for people with fair or poor or no credit history. Often the charges are between 27 and 36% APR. And they could add monthly or program fees to this. These are outrageous interest rates. Why is it that credit cards could be evil? Here's a prime example. Let's look at an example of a missed payment. If you bought a television for $1,000 and you missed the payment, you would need to pay a late fee of $30 plus the monthly interest rate. In this case scenario, we're using 30% APR, which would be equivalent to $25 for that month. The total you would end up paying would be $1,055 instead of the original $1,000. You are now on the hook for an additional $55 to the bank. You just gave it away for them. This is why credit cards are not your best friend. They are your best friend if you know how to use them, but not in this case. And just imagine how many people carry thousands of dollars on a credit card and have these revolving credits. You could do the math, and they're just giving away money over and over again, and they never can get out of debt. But you can avoid all this, and all you have to do is pay your statement balance when your credit card payment is due. This will allow you to avoid any unnecessary late fees and interest rates. Just remember that the statement balance is not the same as the minimum payment. Statement balances, that's the total amount that you owe on your credit card for the billing cycle. Paying this in full by the due date avoids interest charges, as opposed to minimum payments. That's the smallest amount that you must pay by the due date to keep your account in good standing. So paying only the minimum avoids late fees, but interest will apply to the remaining balance. That brings us to the real danger of credit cards: overspending. So if it is so simple to avoid interest rates, why are people constantly in debt? The answer is overspending. People overbuy cars, they overbuy houses, they overbuy vacations, restaurants, stuff, and more stuff. We are simply in a consumerist society that bombards us with needing to have this and that and more of what you got. Because if you don't, you're not cool, or you're not following the trend, and you're just being a bored, cranky old person in the corner of the room staring at the wall. Uncontrollable spending is what gets folks to where they are. They don't live below or within their means. Society teaches us to flaunt what we are doing, where we are going, where we are eating, what we are driving. And it is measuring our success. Success comes from discipline, security, and the peace of mind, not from debt-fueled appearances. Obviously, not everyone gets into these situations willingly. And this is where I understand why Dave says credit cards should be cut and shredded. Do you remember Aesop's fables? The ant and the grasshopper? The core lesson there is that hard work and preparation today prevent hardships tomorrow. Many people happen to be the grasshopper who do not prepare for rainy days. Credit cards become their last resort for survival. And here's an article that I want to get into from Bloomberg News that's titled, "Even Top Earners Are Falling Behind on Credit Card and Car Payments." And this article came out in July of 2025. And let's read it a little bit. Upper income Americans are increasingly falling behind on credit card and auto loan payments, signaling an underlying vulnerability in the U.S. economy as the labor market slows. Delinquencies on such debts from those making at least $150,000 annually has jumped almost 20% over the last 2 years, faster than for middle and lower income borrowers, according to the credit scoring firm Vantage Score. A recent Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis study found the share of people making late car payments in high-income zip codes has risen twice as much over the last year as in the lowest income ones. Then we see this graph that shows how people that are making 150 plus have seen a bigger jump in delinquencies versus the lower income making folks. It is clear that overspending is happening here. People are being sold these luxury homes with a spot for a luxury car and then go out for a luxury dinner. Now people are ending up luxuriously broke. But the part that really surprised me was this part of the article. In Brooksfield, Florida, Christopher Lawton and his wife are paying off $50,000 of debt that quickly piled up after he lost his accounting job in 2023. And his wife lost hers a year later. While they've both found work since, their annual income fell by around $40,000, making it more difficult to afford normal expenses. Mr. Lawton goes on to say, it was a defeating feeling coming from a situation where we were able to pay our expenses before. Now, I don't know if the Lawtons were living below their means. I don't know if the debt was due to medical expenses or extraneous circumstances, aside from the layoff. But something tells me that they probably could have prepared better for this. But the consumerism vortex sucked them in. $50,000 in debt is a pretty hefty amount of credit card and car payment debt. It's clearly overspending. If there is something that you can take away from this, it's that, like I said in my previous videos, do not overspend. Live within or below your means. Learn to have patience before you get into a car that you just have to have. I know it's easier said than done, but you need to start practicing now. You will learn and you will find that peace of mind that you get from doing this. I also have something pretty interesting to say about Dave Ramsey, and I will say that he helped on my journey to becoming somewhat financially independent. But did you know that if Dave Ramsey were to obtain a credit card, he would fall under that subprime category? Believe it or not, the man has no credit history. He has said that himself, and he is proud of it. He claims to pay everything with cash. It works for him because he says he can negotiate his way to a better deal with cash. And yes, I can say that it worked for me before, at times with smaller things. I never really tried it for big ticket items. And it doesn't mean that it will certainly work for you. I don't take everything that he says at face value. Frankly, if I followed exactly what he said, I wouldn't have a nice amount of money in the stock market because he only focuses on mutual funds. But anyway, I still use credit cards to pay for everyday things, but I always make it a point to pay off the balance statement every month. That way, I can reap the benefits of obtaining card rewards and points while I'm avoiding the interest. So in the end, credit cards are not all bad when you know how to use it. It's simply a tool that, if used correctly, can give you good benefits. So what's your opinion? Are credit cards evil or just misunderstood, misused? Drop it in the comments. And thanks for watching. And if you like what you saw, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Take care and see you next time.